9 out of 10 times, they might have had an idea of what they wanted, but if you come and blow them away with something different, I have also been on the other side of it where I've been hiring. You come in and show me what you're going to do with it. Great, change the character. We'll write for you now. That works probably more often.
Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I am Jack Smart, the senior film writer at the AV Club. If you're interested in programming like this from the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. And now, it is my pleasure to have this panel, our lovely panel of Emmy-nominated guest actresses in comedy, Harriet Walter, Harriet Harris, and Kaitlin Olson. How are all of you today?
Very well, thanks.
Hi, really well.
Hello. Congratulations to all of you on these Emmy nominations. I am of the opinion that all of you should have far more Emmy nominations than you do.
Same.
We're here to talk today about being a guest actor, which I actually think is a really interesting way to talk about acting and to talk about acting both career-wise and then craft-wise. So can I ask just the big basic question about maybe this category? Whoever would like to go first, how does one create a, quote, scene-stealing performance on TV if that is indeed the goal of a guest actor?
I mean, that's the goal of any actor, so sure.
Right.
I don't know. What do you guys, I don't know that anybody set out to steal any scenes, but it's so wonderful to have some wonderful writing to work with and to read a script and feel excited about the possibility of jumping in and doing something really special with it. It's not always easy to go and do someone else's show when you know, it's not your home. And so to have a really wonderful character that you're excited to bring some life to is exciting.
Yeah, for me, it's it's kind of a privilege that you can watch a show as a regular audience, and sometimes you've never seen it, so you get sent it, you know, prior to accepting the job. But it's great to get that advantage of seeing the style and the kind of genre that you've got to slip into and fit into. It gives you a whole head start from a show that you've created from scratch.
And I think it's very similar to what both Harriet and Kaitlin said. If you know the show, then you kind of think maybe I would be asked to be on that at some point because there's an energy or something that you think would be appropriate for the show that you might have to offer. But basically, you can't do anything unless it's in the writing because there's no time, and people have no patience with a guest actor to say, oh, I really need to develop this, or could we do this one more time? Or, and so the relationship between the characters really has to be in the writing. And if the writing is good enough, then really you're pretty lucky.
That's so interesting. I'm definitely going to circle back on the idea of quickly creating a character, because I think that actually pertains to auditions, which of course we love to talk about here. But I had not thought of this notion of, like, for a guest actor, the big difference is whether or not you know the show, or whether or not you're going into a show that is kind of brand new. Is there a scale between coming in and barging in and doing what you set out to do and not really collaborating or listening, or Harriet Walter, as you said, slipping in and being more collaborative? Like, are you trying to strike a balance between those two extremes, maybe?
I think that sometimes is indicated by the directors and people, like, you know, you get a clue on your first day whether they want you to slice through because they want a new element, which some of these guest performances are about. Bring it, you know, you're throwing an injection into the whole process. Everybody, the audience has become familiar with the chemistry of the characters. You're this new side swipe, which may alter, you know, or throw a new light on a character that's already established. And that's sometimes your function to, I mean, in my case, it's being a mother. So I walk in and I go, okay, I've seen this character. She's my daughter. Get used to it. And then kind of find a way that you could relate to that character as a mother in some way, either by completely contrasting them or by having some familiar tics that make the audience believe you are actually one family. So that's really where the energy goes in my particular case.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. The idea of you have to take cues from the other actor who has already established their character. You can't ask them to compromise their character or meet you in the middle, especially for something that's already underway. This is also true for Kaitlin. You're playing a daughter, and Harriet, you're playing somebody who had in Hacks a history. It's all about shared history with these existing characters, right?
Yeah, I don't really think you can ever ask another actor to change their performance. At least
No.
I've never found a way to say, if you'd only do this, then
Yeah.
I could show myself to advantage by doing this. And wouldn't that be lovely? You just have to work things out, and like it's a relationship, and listen to, I think, and it's probably different for people with a different temperament, but basically I think I'm reliant on my partner to meet me halfway, but I don't ask people to give ground.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in the pilot or the first episode. And so we were all kind of figuring out at the same time, which was very helpful. And I think I can speak for all three of us at this stage. If someone's asking us to come and do a part, they wrote it for us or with us in mind. And I think that they kind of expect that we're going to bring our own spin on it and embrace that. And really, that's, I think, something that they're wanting to see us do. And any good director is going to work with you and, give you feedback. But yeah, I felt really fortunate that they wanted me to do this character in the first place, and they wanted me to sort of put my own spin on it. And, one thing that's different now than it was 20 years ago when I was auditioning for stuff, I would go in and I would audition. I would really read the stage direction and the character and what do they want from me? What do they want from me? But that's when I was doing my worst auditioning, was trying to figure out what somebody else wanted from me. The only way I can really give a performance that I'm proud of is when I look at it and I just make it my own. And if I'm happy with the performance, whether it's in an audition or when you're on set, then I feel like I've got something. If I'm trying to just please people or fit into a box, it's just not going to be as authentic. So there is some aspect of me just bringing what I want to do and then working with the director. And then when you're fortunate enough that the director wanted you to be there in the first place, then it worked nicely. And Hacks, I will say, is such a lovely, it's just a really wonderful experience. The creators are amazing. Lucia has directed all of my episodes. She's unbelievable. It's just warm and friendly and collaborative, and yet they know what they want. So it's the best of everything.
I think we're all lucky to be in these shows that are successful. They kind of have a confidence about them. So, when you walk into, you literally are a guest at a party, you don't know anybody, or you might know a few people. You know that you've been invited, you're supposed to be there. But in some cases, I think I'm like Kaitlin, you sometimes think, well, they don't really know who I am. They've just kind of taken a chance on me. And so there is a balancing act between, as I said, sort of slotting in, not being out of style, but at the same time, having some kind of new fresh air that you're bringing in. And if the company's confident, which in the case of Ted Lasso, they're a beautiful, confident team who've established themselves as a really strong force, then you come in and they're kind of resilient. You can't do much to ruin their game. So, they're confident and they accept you and they welcome you in. I have been in shows where the host actor, if you're the guest, has been quite hostile and quite sort of, what are you going to do? But that's in a sort of more paranoid, less confident situation.
That's such an interesting point, that the confidence means that it's just better to be assertive. Like I'm going to be asking for a lot of advice here. And it sounds like one of the first pieces of advice is just be assertive, just be more confident. Like Kaitlin, like you were saying, 20 years ago, you were maybe more like uncertain and guessing about what others want. And instead it can be a little bit more like, this is what I am bringing as the actor. Can I ask really quickly about backstory? I always find it really interesting to ask actors about where they factor in inventing backstory, since sometimes it's not there. There's a degree to which backstory is there for your character or not. it seems an interesting exercise for a guest actor where there's time between your appearances, perhaps. How do you guys factor in inventing backstory that's not there, or maybe asking the writers and directors of the show questions that pertain to constructing your character?
Oh, I just think it's more fun just to make it up. They'll tell you if you're on the wrong track. But if you start asking, like, what was I like as a child, or what was this nascent experience or something, then it can really throw you, and everything that you built about the character, suddenly you think, oh, that just doesn't fit anymore. So I think you got to be open to direction and open to somebody saying that's not quite what we had in mind. But particularly if you're a guest, there's not a lot of time. There are no conversations. There's really, do you want the part? Yes, I like the part. Do I get to read it before I do it? Because yes, I would like to work, but I'd like to know what it is. So, but you kind of have to make it up at home and bring to it the things that are going to be valuable in that situation. And with good writing, you can kind of tell what kind of life the person's had. And you don't have to, but you fill it, to the extent that you need to. And some parts are just so in the moment and don't dig very far back, that because everything they want is out there, then I don't think I spend a whole lot of time doing backstory on that, because it's about their dreams as opposed to their history, I think.
Ooh.
And you don't always have to inform every performance, I don't think, with a lot of backstory.
100% agree. I just want to clarify, because I threw out ask questions. I agree with everything that she said. You got to come in and you have to read it. If it's well written, it makes sense. You know the kind of character you are. Just bring all of the qualities that make sense to you to it. When I said asking, I was thinking particularly of, there's so much that goes on with Deborah when I, as an actor, am not there. And so there's a lot that is talked about with Deborah's relationship with DJ that happens when I'm not there. So sometimes I have to go, so what did she talk about in her stand-up that involved me that I just saw, which I really actually didn't see, and now we have to shoot this scene. So there is, and a good director and a good showrunner is going to give you the details of what's been going on behind your back, so you can bring whatever emotion needs to come. But as far as like who your character is and how they behave and why they behave that way, you got to make that stuff up so it makes sense to you.
If we're talking advice to people, my experience is that the less backstory I'm given, I may be generalizing here, but I've sometimes received an offer with a breakdown of the character that's sort of 2 pages long, really interesting, fascinating. You go, yeah, but it's not in the script.
Yeah.
There's no way you can show that in the script, and it's not very well written. And in a way, it's a sign of lack of confidence in the writer, that they're feeding in what they'd like to think you can put into it. But actually, unless it's somewhere in the script that I can demonstrate that or bring that to light or, bring that to the surface in some way, it's as good as useless. Whereas with the very well-written stuff that in my experience, you don't need so much of a backstory, because the writing is so tight that the backstory is kind of inferred really from what you're reading. The tip of the iceberg's there, and you can only go one way. I find the more they write about it, the less I trust it.
Wow.
That's a good
That's
point.
super interesting. Yeah, there's text, and there's dialogue, and then there's text, and then there's subtext. And if they're spelling out all that subtext, then there's nothing in the text.
Yeah,
and it is too much on you.
I think it's valuable when you have to do something that you don't really imagine the character doing, and you don't think it is in the writing. And I think maybe that's what Harriet Walter was just saying. If it's not really in the writing, but you have to generate it as an actor, then sometimes I have thought, well, what really is this about? Because it's not in the scene. I have to go from here to here and explode at this moment, and it's just not in the scene. So at that point, then I will make something up that happened in the past to the person that gets them to do that. But again, that's really not wonderful writing, and that's not what any of us really enjoy doing or love doing. But it's fun to make stuff up. So I like doing that too.
It's
Wonderful.
also different actors you work with want to go into the backstory. I mean, I've walked into, as I say, I'm usually a mother, so I'm kind of supposed to know the characters of my children,
Yeah.
and it's not always the case that they want to talk to you about it. And so you're kind of left kind of just observing very carefully to survive, watch everything, listen to everything, and play off that.
Yeah. Can I ask, what is the ideal collaboration or relationship between an actor? This is a big question, between an actor and a filmmaker, whether that's a writer or director or both. But it's also maybe more specifically occurring to me that all three of you are appearing on TV shows where a lot of the creators behind it or a lot of the people crafting your dialogue are also actors. Do you find that when you're working with directors or writers who are also actors, that maybe they speak a language about constructing a character or understanding how the role of a guest actor is?
One of the things that happens in that scenario is that it just becomes more collaborative, I think. We'll cut and then everyone will sort of huddle and figure out what they liked, what they didn't like, keep that, add this, keep improvising on that one. Let's throw you alts. How are you feeling? It just seems more collaborative. And that's definitely how it is on Sunny too, which is a show I've been doing for 15 years. So I think that directors who haven't performed and also maybe lack the confidence sometimes come in and either give notes that don't make any sense, or they're afraid to give you a line reading because it's been said that you're not allowed to give an actor a line reading. Sometimes when I'm working with people who are actors who know my work, they're like, wait, do it the way that you do it when you're like, oh, and then they do a line reading for me, but they're doing one of my thing. Like, that doesn't bother me at all. It just feels more collaborative and less like, this is your role and this is my role and we are not allowed to say this or do this. And, it's just easier and it's more fun, I think.
I think it's a two-way traffic as well, which is harder to achieve when you're a guest. If somebody knows you very well and they're a confident writer, there's a lot of leeway for sort of improv or slight alteration of a line or doing it with your take on a line or your rhythm on a line, which might involve a different word or something like that. And, mostly the script is sacrosanct to me. I'll work from the script first, but if there's something that's difficult, I like to be able to move around with the writer and sort of arrive at something else if necessary. And the great ones I've worked with always say, fine, and so there's a two-way traffic where they're kind of getting to know you a bit more. And then they start to write more for you because they don't really know what that quality and quantity is until it's up and playing. And so, I get lines, I get texts from Jason Sudeikis at 4 a.m. I'd go, well, what am I doing up at 4? But I'd say, what is he doing up at 4 o'clock? He's saying, I've decided that line's better than this line. So there's that kind of, an actor, a director who's been an actor can pick something up about the way actors work, which is very helpful.
Fascinating. I'm so tickled by this idea, Harriet Walter, that you said that you're a party guest. By being a guest actor, you are a guest at a party. I think that's actually a brilliant way of looking at it because, Kaitlin, as you pointed out, it's supposed to be fun. This is all supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it all the way back. What do each of you remember about your very first day on a set? Because I do think that actors who have never been on a set, they would really love advice for what to expect. What do you wish you'd known? What do you remember about that?
That's such a great question. I love that you're asking this question. I was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And I was terrified that I just didn't know what all the rules were. I didn't know who all the people were. I was going to let someone down. It really was like being, a freshman and showing up to a senior party where everybody knew each other and they all knew what you were supposed to do and not supposed to do. And I was terrified. But what happens there is your brain goes into fight or flight and you can't relax and play and be as loose and fun as you should be able to when you're acting, certainly doing a comedy. And it's funny, I actually noticed that with my parents when they would come and visit set too. They're like, want to stand against a wall and not move because they don't want to be in the way. And I just want to be like, you belong here. Everyone here belongs here. Nobody knows who everybody is here anyway. Like, there's like 200 people that are walking around. We all don't know each other. We know like 50 of them. So just walk in the room. It's okay for you to be here. People want you here. They're excited to see you. And also it's okay to screw up. It's okay to miss a line. It's okay to not hit your mark. It's all fine. You need to just, own the space. You're there for a reason. Relax. If you don't know something, ask a question. Screw up, start over again. It's not a big deal. You just gotta, I don't know how anybody gives an authentic, good, fun performance if they're terrified that they're gonna screw up. And that's kind of that's sort of life too. But yeah, now that I'm more comfortable, and I still have to talk to myself when I'm walking on someone else's set, like the first day of Hacks, I was like, oh wow, yeah, like, hello, thanks for having me. But you have to remember you're there for a reason. So play around, just do your thing. If they want you to change it, they'll tell you.
Beautiful.
I think one of the tricky things for a newcomer, I presume a newcomer to any job, it's, you have to go through it. You're going to be nervous. You're going to not know the rules. That's what happens when you're on your first day in any job. Luckily, I'm not a first day in a hospital ward where I have to save lives. It's just a show. But the main thing is that, this balance that you're going to have to learn throughout your career is the balance between relaxing, being pally, having fun, passing those dull moments of waiting by a good lot of gossip and cups of coffee, and keeping your head together, your focus and your concentration ready for when you have to walk out there and be your character, because it's such a different universe, the onset universe, when you're actually rolling, and the universe behind the scenes, which can go on for hours. It's very hard to kind of keep your concentration at the ready, have it right there. Remember the scene. Don't go too far away. You're having a great gossip, but remember what the scene's about. You're going to have to do. And then suddenly say, Harriet, we're on. And you go, okay, here I am. I'm back in character. So those are going to be the difficult things of sort of keeping yourself together, but being able to relax with people and not go around like a zombie going, I've got to learn my lines. I've got to learn my lines. It's a balance thing.
Mm.
I think one of the first days I ever was on a set, actually it went very well. No, not really, but it went okay. But then I did some drama immediately after that. And the director, who's very nice, and I won't say who he was, but he's very nice. And he said, I hired you because I grew up in Minneapolis and I saw that you performed at the Guthrie, and I didn't see you perform, but I know that you must be a good actor if you're from the Guthrie. So I thought, well, okay, but I don't. And then he said, but I know how big the Guthrie is. And so I want you to really, 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 no matter what you do, I'm going to tell you to bring it way in. And so I did it, and I thought, oh, this is pretty subtle, isn't it? He's going to be surprised I was so good. And he said, no, we're doing it again. And he said, I really want you to bore me to death. That's all I ask of you, is just bore me to death, because the camera's going to be coming in on you. You don't have to come to me. I'm going to come to you, and I want you to put me to sleep. And so I was so stunned. And so we did it once more, and he said, he may have asked me to do it 3 more times. And finally he said, that's it. I was nearly bored to tears. That's what I need. It's got to be that pained, because the camera's going to end up, I want to be inside your brain. I don't want you coming out at me. And I thought, wow, it's just, I'd never thought of acting like that. I'd never,
Brilliant.
And that I thought was, but other than that, it's like, would you do a Groucho, or could you banana around? And you think, what? They don't talk about these terms in classical theater. And you just think, I don't know what I know who Groucho was. I know what a banana looks like. I think I can, I think I know what they mean. But there's a lot of lingo and stuff that would be helpful to know, but you don't really need it. Somebody will say, just, can you bend your knees? Can you move around?
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, is like, I don't know why it took me so many decades to realize that I'm not an idiot if I say, I don't know what that means. Can you explain it to me? That doesn't mean that I'm not trained or that I didn't go to theater school, or like, I don't know what you're talking about because I'm new to this job. What does that mean? No one's going to be annoyed with you. They're just going to explain how to banana. And then you're going to banana. It's all going to be fine.
You're going to slip on this.
Yeah, I don't know what banana is, and I'm excited
I'll
to
show
learn.
you. I'll show you.
Oh, wow.
Technical thing, Jack.
Yes.
Very complicated.
Well, Harriet Harris, that really is a perfect segue, because I wanted to ask all three of you about your training and the takeaways from your training, because all three of you have done, the live version or the stage version of this screen work. For Harriet Walter, it's been Lambda and also all of these theater companies, and then West End and Broadway. And Harriet Harris, it's Juilliard and off-Broadway and Broadway. And Kaitlin, I find interesting because you studied theater and then did the comedy route. What are the biggest takeaways from those eras of your life, or what are the skills that you find you are still using that have endured?
Listening. I think that's probably breathing.
Breathing, yeah.
It's trying to think on the line, things like that. I think those kind of things translate no matter what you're doing. And but you've got to maintain, I think, all your skills so you can go back and do something without feeling like, I put this away in an attic and a trunk and it's completely inaccessible. So you really, I think you use all of the things that you've ever, it's all about what you've experienced anyway, and what you can bring to something, what you can imagine if you haven't experienced it. So I used to think that they were all the same, really, but I think it's all very different now. You really don't give the same performance, I don't think, on stage that you do on camera or in a small house. And I used to think it was, but I think about them differently. It may look similar, but I don't think it really is.
I agree. I think it's almost the opposite. Everything that you need on stage is sort of not needed on film, and everything that you do on film wouldn't get you far on stage. So, I love the note you got on your first day of boring someone to tears. I just think if I'd been told that, I was always working too hard to try and be interesting, and actually, as you say, the camera's right looking there. Your left eyebrow is interesting when you're that close up. So, but I think I love the fact that I am still like, oh, that's what they meant from some teacher at drama school. That's still happening to me. And I love that, because it's just an ongoing lifetime apprenticeship. And that's not being, that's true. So, and certainly with the evolution of different styles, particularly on TV camera, that if I think of the type of acting I did in the 70s and 80s on screen, it would look very overdone now. It would look rather presented. And now it's very much sort of bore me to tears, which is, quite a discipline in itself when you're trained to sort of show what you're feeling and convince people of something. It's quite a training to pull it all back.
Yeah, the back row paid too. So you got to do it for them, but not on camera.
Yep. I agree with all of that. Most of the stuff I've done on camera is comedy. There's definitely a big difference, specifically what they were talking about with dramatic stuff versus comedic stuff. I'm still pretty big comedically, even if there are cameras around. I can't help it. But the meaningful moments, for sure, like, you don't really need to show the back row meaningful moments. That all happens in your eyeballs and inside of you. And you don't have to. I think a lot of times people, when they're auditioning, are doing it in front of a mirror, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But for me, I can't do that. I need to absolutely not worry about what my face looks like or what it looks like at all. It's all about how I feel. So I can't ever work on lines in front of a mirror because it doesn't matter. And I would say really relying on your scene partner. It just goes back to listening. You know, you're in this scene with this person because you're having a conversation with this person. This isn't like a monologue by yourself on a stage. And so really just appreciating that the most talented people that you work with are just going to make you look better because they're giving you so much. And yeah, if you're listening and you're having an honest conversation and the writing is good enough that it's not hard to get those words out of your mouth, you don't really need to overthink it. You just need to listen and have a real conversation with the real emotions that your character is bringing to the scene.
I think what Kaitlin just said is so important, because I think that there is such an emphasis, I suppose there always was, but right now there's such an emphasis on how you look and people sort of posing for themselves or selfies and all of that sort of stuff, that they can instantly see what they look like and when they do a trial on their phone. And I just think that's so the wrong approach. You are not watching you. They're watching you. You are being you. Let them watch you. And the other thing you said, Kaitlin, is so important. This thing of, I mean, I did work with I'm not going to name her. It's immaterial, but the fact that she was very young, but very famous, and she'd got a lot of pressure on her. And I worked with, you know, she had so much pressure on her at an early age. Nobody had told her, just listen. Just sit down, listen, trust the other actors, watch them, and get involved in the scene. It's not all about you. It's about the whole lot, you know. And I just wish someone had said that to her, because she turned out fine, by the way. But anyway, at that stage, she needed telling.
I was thinking last night about a story I heard that a friend of mine who had worked with Robert Towne, and he said that great film acting is not the conversation you're having at your table. Great film acting is the conversation that you overhear at another table. And that it's just not about getting through to anybody. It's not about making an impression on anybody. It's not, you know, it's some people always think, oh, it's just all you have to do is be relaxed. No. You know, people don't go around in a relaxed mode most of the time. You try to be relaxed enough to work and be adaptable rather. But, you know, most people out to dinner or bothering to talk to each other aren't in a state of relaxation. You're trying to convey information that means something to you, or why have the conversation. But it's just the pitch of it that I think is again a difference between being on stage and having to fill a void of possibly 35 feet and less than 15 inches from somebody. And it's just, that's the intimacy of that is so different. And
yeah, you really have to learn to pretend that you don't think anyone's watching you.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, how does someone behave who really doesn't know that anyone's watching them?
It's a great point. Because it's a great point, like you're saying, like you're all saying, it is not your job as an actor to watch your performance. You are one of the audience members, I suppose, but in the doing of the thing, it has nothing to do with what you look like, or it's that's the mirror acting thing is such an interesting point. And I did want to ask about, we've got to talk about auditions. And I do think auditions are an interesting thing to ask guest actors, because it involves that, as we've said, it's quick. You don't have a lot of time to like create this character. How do we feel about auditions? What is the advice? Kaitlin, you said you never do mirror work. Are there things that you do? Are there things that you do every time in prepping for an audition?
Thank the good Lord, I haven't auditioned for anything in a really long time, because
Okay.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's just not the same. And I think it's because I do have a theater background. I'm used to working. I rely on my scene partner. To walk into an office and read with someone who's not looking at me, they're looking at a page, and they're not acting, they're reading. It's so strange. And so I find myself in my head trying to act their part also for me, and then switch to me acting back to this character that I've built for them, it's so strange. So no, I was never good at it. It always felt very fake to me. I never felt like I was really dropping into the character. I felt like I was just sort of getting through it. So the auditions that I started doing well in were improv auditions, because there was somebody else that was improvising with me. So at least I was relaxed and playing around and getting some authentic stuff out there. I think that's why the audition for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia was so good, because we did the scene and then they had me put the page down and they were like, do the scene again, but don't worry about the specifics of the dialogue and just act with Charlie, who was an actor and a brilliant actor. And that was fun and it worked. And I was in the moment, and I was thinking as a character, trying to come up with what my character was going to say, which is great. So that's not very helpful, other than the one thing I did do, actually, I remember that did help was I would do the other characters' lines into a tape recorder, and I would leave space for my stuff, and I would listen to it and do it in the car, the whole way in the car. So I'm driving in the car, I'm not paying attention to my face. Again, there's no mirror. I'm driving. I'm just listening and having a conversation, just to get more comfortable with it, so that when I was making up how this reader should be doing their lines to me, it was a little bit more familiar. Again, I don't mean relaxed. You're never going to be relaxed, but I tell my friends who are auditioning, like right before, well, this is for comedy, but right before you go in, you've already worked on it. You've got it. It's in there. Let it all go. Go in and have fun with yourself. Go make yourself laugh. Go enjoy this time. Don't try and prove anything to anybody else, because for me, that gets me up into the anxiety brain where I shut down. Just go have fun. This is going to be fun for me. And at the end of the day, if I don't get it, okay, I went and I had fun for 20 minutes.
Great.
That's great. That's really good advice. Because I do remember those days when you were in a tiny office and some robot was reading, somebody who was really not an actor was just reading it out. And that was a comedy audition. And I thought, how can you do comedy when you've got no timing to bounce off, and forget it. I think actually I got very few jobs out of a self-tape. That's my confession. And, because I think I think it's true to say that it's one thing to do brilliant auditions. It's another thing to work well. And sometimes those two things don't happen together. And an astute casting director will be able to see through that. And I think it's wonderful that someone said to you, forget all that. Let's just, it doesn't matter if the lines aren't perfect, the character, let's play. That's how they should do it. Because you get so hung up on, I said we instead of us, and really that's not what they're looking for. They're not looking for perfection in how you do it. They're looking for, what type is she? Can she work with us? Does the chemistry work? So don't get too hung up about that. The word, know it for yourself, but know who you are, or invent who you are. But don't get too worried about being too perfect, because they give you 24 hours less sometimes to get it under your belt.
I think I don't audition very much anymore, but I do still audition. I never get a job that I audition for, however. Okay. So it's just, it's almost useless. So, but I still think it's kind of interesting to do. And I remember when I was a young actor, I loved it. I just adored it, because I thought, oh my God, I've got a chance to act today. I've got a chance to, do what I like to do. And I didn't even get nervous about it, because I just thought this is so much better than yesterday when I didn't have an audition. And I have 2 this week. What a great week. So I loved them. And then once I started sort of working more, and I guess probably to the competition, it's to suddenly realize that, oh my God, it's not getting to act. It feels like I'm competing with people I know, and 7 of us are sitting in the room, and and that's just the 7 I see in this 20-minute block. And it did sort of unnerve me for a little while, but I got over it in one of the last auditions I went to, because now that I'm older, it can be anybody for the part, really. It's just, you're no longer in the category of she's got to look like this. She's got to be a wife material, whatever that is, or, the girlfriend, or, and those weren't really ever my parts anyway. But I went to audition for something about 4 years ago, and my God, it was just like, they have no idea what they want. It was just, it was really like such a scene in the room, and in the waiting room, and I thought, oh, well, this just really, it's going to be one of us. And it really just, who fills the slot? It really has nothing to do with anything anymore, because I could be anybody. This character, it's just absurd now. So, and I think people either at this point, for better or for worse, they either have seen enough of me and never want to see me again, so I don't get to audition for those people, or they go, oh, just give her the part. So, but sometimes you feel like, I wish I'd auditioned, because I don't know that this is working out like I hoped it would. I think that
I agree. I was sort of, I remember my agent saying, you shouldn't have to audition anymore, but I like to audition, because at least I get a chance to, in case I'm not on the right level, and then they can see if I take direction well.
Yeah.
I used to like being in the room. I mean, now it's self-tape and send it in the mail, but on email, but when you could be in the room and they say, try it this way, then you kind of get something of what it is they want by their feedback. And I think they learn whether you are quick of apprehension, whether you can work with them. I think it's very valuable to be in the room with people, but it's more scary in many ways, but it's more of a true reading of how your work process is going to be.
Yeah. And the thing about the tape too, you do it, and like what Kaitlin said, I can't watch myself over and over again. I would never be an actress if I had to watch myself all the time. So it's like, it better be good the first time, or good enough to send, because it's like going, I really have gone bowling a few times in my life, but the first time was like, oh, all the pins went down, and it just got worse and worse. It's every time I ran the ball down the lane, and it's just like, that's like take 39. No, it's all terrible then. So plus you have to watch yourself.
Yeah, that's mean.
So
It's mean.
sometimes I ask my sweetheart, I say, would you watch it and just tell me if it's any good? And he'll go, you can do better. I think we ought to go again. So it's like, okay, all right.
Well, and Harriet Harris just spoke of a horrible audition. I wanted to ask all of you, do you have a worst audition horror story from your career? Like, is there any just worst memory?
I had a bad one with, is it Brian De Palma? Yeah, I think it was Brian De Palma.
Mm-hmm.
And my agent said, he's a man of few words. When I got to the waiting room, an assistant came out and said, he's a man of few words. When I got outside the door, someone came out and said, he's a man of few words. I thought, this is a euphemism for he's a shit. I went in there and he had no words except, do it again. Don't know what you're doing.
Oh.
Nightmare, sort of unfriendly, arms folded, corner of the room, didn't even say hi, didn't get up, shake my hand. Horrible. And actually, I didn't want the part that much anyway. So, who wants to work with that? I'm sure he's a lovely guy to some people, but he was mean that day.
Oh. Wow. Thank you for naming names.
I know.
Yeah. Come on.
Kaitlin?
Well, I had a couple where I'm sitting in the waiting room with like 10,000 other young women, and we're all just like, oh boy, there's a lot of us, huh? And then the casting director's door is open and she's on the phone just double checking that the person they've already offered it to is going to take it or not take it. And we're all just sitting there like, oh, so we just literally spent 2 full days working on this, got up, blow dried, put makeup on, drove all the way here, probably walked across a hot, sweaty lot. just to find out that you have already offered it to probably more than one person and you're just waiting to see who's going to take it and we're all your backups. So I have a couple of those. It's just the worst process. It's the worst, which is, I think, goes back to why I'm saying, okay, if you're going to show up and do it anyway, just have fun. Like Harriet said, like enjoy it, because you get to act today in front of people and you might do an amazing job and make a great impression on this casting director. And just because you didn't get it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you did a bad job. It means they probably already offered it to somebody else and they're just waiting to see if she's going to say yes or he.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like you said, Harriet, they have no idea what they're doing or what they want.
And they don't often know what they want. They might not know what they want. That's why I really encourage people to go in and just do what you want to do with it. Make it interesting and unique to you. Have fun, make it your own, be proud of what you did, because 9 out of 10 times they might have had an idea of what they wanted, but if you come and blow them away with something different, I have also been on the other side of it where I've been hiring. You come in and show me what you're going to do with it. Great, change the character. We'll write for you now. That works probably more often.
You hear a lot of stories like that, don't you? In a Q&A after a movie, the director says she walked in and blew me away and I hadn't seen it that way, but it worked out so well,
Yeah, make it your own.
That's really inspiring. Yeah, it really puts the power in the hands of the actor, which I think is so important and so inspiring.
I think what Harriet said about, man, a few words or something, you go in and you think sometimes, I guess I should establish some kind of rapport. I guess that's part of it, because you're going to, particularly in a movie, you're going to be with somebody for a long time. Directors for theater come and go, and they might hire you again in another 3 or 5 years or something. But on location, you're with somebody a lot. And usually directors are so busy. But when I was first doing this for, I thought, you ought to sort of see if you can get along with people. And I now just think, just go in the room and do your thing and don't even talk to anybody. Because I know it's crazy, nightmare. I auditioned for somebody that I really, this was probably 20 years ago, and it still hurts. And I really wanted to meet him. I just thought, I really admire his movies, and I think he's terrific. And he's a performer as well as a director. And I don't get very starstruck a lot, and I don't know that I was, but I was ever so happy to meet this person. And he said, "Why are you smiling?" And I said, "Am I?" And he said, "Yes, you've been smiling since you walked in the room." And I said, "Well, I guess I'm excited to meet you." And he went, And it was just sort of like, oh my God. I just really should have, I don't know what. I guess I should have just done what I did. He wasn't.
You should have done exactly what you did, which
was maybe he should have. He should have something.
Yeah, but I just thought that, and then but sometimes you say something and people get so bent out of shape about it. But other times people do want to know a little bit about you. They want to see what you're like. And, but I've decided not to force myself on people, not try to get them talking first. I just think if they want to talk to me, they'll generate the conversation. I'm not Jane Austen. I don't have to bring them out. But
yeah, I love
that. May be wrong. That may be why nobody wants me.
I think actors are people pleasers. Actors want to communicate, get in touch, and feel comfortable with people. That's what we do. And maybe directors don't feel that need,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they think you're trying to gain ground, and sort of work your way into a more intimate conversation so you can talk about what you need for, and I think a lot of directors just want to have a one-way communication. Not all of them. I don't think the really good ones do.
This is all such terrific advice. And I also feel like we are poking at several institutional or systemic issues with this industry that we could probably spend another hour talking about, but we don't have time. So I'm instead going to ask everyone in a second, I'm going to ask everyone to do a round robin, one sentence, the one piece of advice that you would give early career actors. But can I preface that first by asking the opposite question, which is, what is the worst advice you've received? Is there anything that any of you can think of that's like maybe something that people tend to tell actors that you find is not true, or misperceptions that you wish you could correct?
I don't know. When I left drama school, I had my photo up on the wall, and the director said, or one of the teachers said, you should change your nose and you should get your teeth done. And because it was out of the question financially, and I never even really wanted to, I said, no, hell. But I know people who are buckled by that and then go that route. And we want to see your real face. And as you get older, get older.
Yeah. And I think, oh, well, this is the advice, not the bad advice. I did have my first manager who hired me, or who brought me on. She said I needed to get my hair cut. So she made an appointment for me at this salon in Beverly Hills. And I was like, great. And I went and showed up. I sat down and I started to talk to him about what I wanted. And he was like, no, I got it. And he cut my hair like completely off because she called ahead and told him what to do. And at the time, I mean, I cried, I was devastated, I hated it, but I was like, I guess that's just what, you don't have to listen to other people or let other people do things with your body that, I mean, it's just so completely insane that ever even happened, or that I let it happen. But I just felt like, oh, there are all these people who are in charge and I'm not in charge. And you really are in charge. Like it doesn't feel right. Don't do it. Even if everybody else is doing it, if that doesn't feel right. There are no rules. I'm skipping right to the advice. There are no rules. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's constantly changing. It used to be that I would do a guest star on a show, and God forbid you switch 2 words around. You'd have to go back and do it exactly as written. Like those days are long gone, especially if you come from an improv background. Make it your own, switch the words around so it makes sense coming out of your mouth. This, you guys might disagree with me, but for me, that's the only way that I ever started booking things. If something doesn't feel right, or it suggests something different, like go in and take ownership, not in a bossy way, just in this works best for me. This is the way I can give you my best performance. I'm going to try this. Let me know what you think. Like that doesn't have to be a dick move. That can just be, if it goes well, someone's going to be so grateful that you just took ownership and did it that way because it made their project better. If it doesn't work, they'll let you know.
Boom. That was pure gold.
I was going to say something similar about telling people starting out that we may look confident, we may look like we've been in it forever, but everybody's a bit scared, everybody's a bit insecure.
Yes.
Lots of people don't know what they're doing. Everybody feels like an outsider. That's what I've learned. Even the people you think are a clique, they're actually all pretty insecure. And kind of this profession attracts that kind of a personality. So when you think everybody else is in the picture and knows what they're doing, remember that they probably don't, and just look after your own ego. I don't mean ego. Yes, I do mean ego. I mean, look after your self-belief, but don't. I would slightly counter what you said, Kaitlin, in terms of, it depends who you're talking to. Some people need to be told more to make it their own thing and make it fit them. And other people need to be told that actually, if you reach out to a character you didn't know you had in you, or say a phrase that doesn't feel familiar, it might grow you an extra limb. I mean, it's probably not so true of comedy. Comedy, you can't be funny if I feel that your own comic taste is what you bring to something. And so you can't really go into somebody else's comic taste. But I think in sort of general acting, I would say there is a balance to be had between making something your own and decided to expand what your own is, to sort of reach out to a character that's nowhere near you, but you find suddenly there is a link. Suddenly I can understand this person who before I would have stood back and judged. because that's the privilege, that you can creep into somebody else's life and see what it's like from their point of view. And that I think can be transformative and can be a great message to the world. Something that right now we need very much is to step into other people's skins and feel what it is to be them, and not get into our little boxes. So.
Ooh, that was beautiful. Oh my gosh. That's very inspiring. That's very much what acting can do or should do. Yes. And Harriet Harris, do you have a one sentence word of advice, or the opposite?
One sentence, I'm sorry.
No, not one sentence. However
Well,
many
the advice
sentences.
used to be take fountain, but nobody understands that advice anymore.
I understand that. Yeah.
Advice to young actors. I think what I would say is being an actor has really helped me in my life. It continues to be a wonderful thing. And what Harriet Walter was saying about everybody being scared, or and that you do have to do your own thing, and that all those things are very true. And I've been in so many rooms where people say, I was a shy kid, and that's basically most actors I know. They were shy kids. And this has opened up a world where you do have to live in other people's skins. You do have to, otherwise, maybe most of us are too full of trepidation to even try. But it's all about experimentation. And in a safe venue, pretty much. You can look like an idiot trying, but who cares? And that, and if you don't absolutely have to do it, don't do it. There are many things that people can do with their lives. If this is for you, then, and you really know it, then embrace it and do it. But if you think you'd be happy doing anything else, then you probably would be. So.
Yeah, I like that.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you all so much. This has been so insightful, and so there's just been so many brilliant insights into the craft and into the career. I really think actors are going to get so much out of this. So thank you, and congratulations to all three of you on your Emmy nominations.
Oh, I think you're all great, by the way.
I think you're all great too.
It's been a great
Congratulations.
conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
On behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences, process, and craft with our audience. Best of luck to all of you at the Emmys. Everyone say goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.